Thanks for having me, guys. So I've never, Dear White People is a show on TV, and so I never get to see them on the big screen, so this was such a thanks for coming.
So, tell us about this. You wrote the second episode that we saw, yes?
Yes. You mean the Falling for Angels?
Yes.
Yes. So that's from a show called Falling for Angels, which is an anthology series about queer life in Los Angeles. And they have different chapters. The first chapter is about the gentrification of Boyle Heights, and it deals with a gay couple there. And then there's an episode about a black couple, and then there's one about an older couple. And at the end of the series, which is episode 7, there's a culmination, there's a wedding where a couple gets married and you're there for it. And they pay off other storylines from other HereTV series, and then you get to see Gino and Kevin running to each other again at the wedding. Unfortunately, we do not get to find out whether Gino found his parents or not, which is what I wanted. I did not write that episode. They took my characters and did what they wanted with it.
Well, tell us a little about this. I mean, what, besides obviously the sort of the dealing with the neighborhood of Koreatown, were you given any kind of parameters as to what to this episode was going to be?
They just wanted to pitch an Asian story. And so they brought in a bunch of Asian American writer-directors to both write and direct it. Patrick Wang was in the mix, Quentin Lee was in the mix, Andrew Ahn was in the mix, but they couldn't afford him. There was it was weird to compete against all these other gay Asian American directors for the story. I know that HereTV makes movies on a very small budget, and so I pitched towards that. I thought we could do something like Before Sunrise, Before Midnight, the Richard Linklater series, just a 2-person walk and talk about gay Asian American identity. I don't get to see a lot of Asian American have a love scene on screen before. I don't think I've ever seen it, outside of Wong Kar-wai's Happy Together, so I wanted to see one.
Yeah, there's definitely, I'd say, a dearth in Western culture of sexualized queer Asian men.
Absolutely.
And so was the intent always to have people from 2 different backgrounds within the Asian diaspora?
Yeah, well, all of the episodes are based on a location in Los Angeles, and so I thought about location first.
Sure.
And I wanted someplace that was cinematic. And I go to the San Gabriel Valley a lot, but for me the most cinematic place is Koreatown, because it's got all this beautiful Art Deco architecture. It's open 24 hours. You can do an all-night walk and talk. And so from that, I thought about the story. And, I hadn't seen a lot of Asian on Asian love, and you write what you know. And so I'm a Taiwanese American who grew up in Virginia Beach, who didn't hang out with a lot of Asians, so I wrote myself into the Kevin character. And then I actually have a friend named Kevin, who is co-chair of the Directors Guild Asian American Committee with me, and he is the Korean adoptee. And I'm fascinated by people who are detached from their culture even more than I am. So I basically took him out for dinner in Koreatown, and we talked about identity. And that conversation ended up on the page, and that's what you see.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Before trilogy, because I was thinking about that a little, but also about Weekend.
Yes, Andrew Hay, I think it's his, yeah. I mean, I love those movies. I think they're very honest about relationships. I think you can see a whole journey within a short amount of time, and you really feel for the characters at the end. And I just think it's a very compelling format of storytelling. I've seen this a lot of times, and for me, I'm still at the end, I'm kiss him, damn it!
Yeah, but the build-up is there, and when they finally do it, really means so much because of what you've created with the characters. So obviously, it's not just your usual, oh, this thing's ending, we got to kiss now.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And not everyone gets a happy ending. Not all gay stories get a happy ending, sure. But for me, it was. I thought it was a little bittersweet because, he gets this moment of tenderness. Gino kisses Kevin, but will they ultimately end up together? Well, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to watch the season finale to find out. But I'm quite fond of the ending. The original ending got cut, so that is the penultimate scene. In the original script, we have, it's just a button, but Kevin walks away, he gets on the Koreatown Metro and he smiles to himself and he thinks about what happened, and from that moment, from like the close on his face, we can tell that he's probably changing his mind about dating Asian people, which is nice. And that comes from a personal place as well. When you go to, you know, when you're born in Virginia Beach, you're raised there, when you go to a school like UVA where there aren't that many Asians, where you grow up in an environment where they're not found attractive, it's very hard to date one.
Sure.
As much as you want to. And so this is very personal to me in that this show is my therapy about that.
Was moving to LA a culture shock for you in that way?
Yeah, because there's so many hot Asians there, and they're everywhere, and dating in LA is really hard. So I came out of the closet my 4th year here, moved to LA, and as you know, when you first come out of the closet, you want to have a lot of sex. You want to make up for lost time. So I went to clubs, I met people on the internet, and we would hook up, and I'm a very relationship-oriented person, and I wanted to turn into something more. And like, only one time where there was a good hookup did we actually try for it. And then we went out for a month, and then it fizzled. But for me, so for me, like, the premise comes from the fact that I was very frustrated in LA, and I've been dating forever, and nothing really hit. So that's the LA dating scene. I actually have a friend / mentee who's going to move to LA after this, and I was telling him that, dating in LA is going to be quite fabulous when you're in your early 20s, but as you get older, it's going to get steadily more unpleasant. What was your impression of dating in LA? You're from LA.
Yeah, I lived there for a couple of years, and yeah, dating was kind of not great. And then I went back to Dallas for 5 years, which is where I met my husband, and then I dragged him back to Los Angeles. So I didn't have to date in Los Angeles anymore. It was great.
That's the key. I met my fiance while he was in grad school, and he had every intention of leaving LA, but once I, stuck my teeth into him, I couldn't get him to, he can't leave now, so, yeah.
Trap him.
Yeah.
Pin him to the ground.
Exactly.
I have to say, watching earlier today, I watched these back to back, the Dear White People episode and the Looking for Angels episode, and I think with yours, it goes in an interesting place and it serves a dramatic purpose, but both of them kind of reminded me, and this isn't just a gay thing, I think it's in media in general, whenever people are going into some sort of sexual experience that isn't sort of heteronormative, they're going to a sex club, they're attending an orgy, they're being invited to have a three-way, whatever, it never actually happens. Or if it does, it's terrible and dirty and they feel all ashamed about it. And that's just, I find that just kind of weird in media in general, that people can't just have these sort of wacky fling experiences and enjoy them.
Right. I wanted it to be sex positive, especially the orgy scene in Dear White People, and we wanted it to be warm and friendly, but we also wanted it to be kinky, and it's kind of nice, even though Lionel's a little freaked out by it. He's just, Lionel as a character is just sort of freaked out by everything, but I kind of like it that two nice guys are able to find each other in an orgy, and that orgy storyline is not based on personal experience. My mom is in the audience, and I think she's very happy to know that. It's based on a writer named Jack Moore, and he went to an orgy in New York, in Brooklyn, and he was, he was very intimidated, just like Lionel was, and he just met a really nice guy, and they just decided to make love in the middle of this orgy, and I don't mean like fuck, they were making love, and Liza Minnelli was playing, and all he remembers is Liza Minnelli playing over the speakers as he's making love in all this seediness, and so that's the way that.
If you're playing Liza Minnelli at your orgy, it's not that seedy.
Maybe not.
Talk a little about just the experience of, you have one of these things where you're making everything up from scratch and these are characters you're creating versus coming in on a show where there's an established ensemble and those characters then kind of finding things to do with them and having to operate within the parameters of what you're allowed to do with those characters?
Well, writing Falling for Angels felt a lot more personal to me, obviously. You know, it's two Asian characters, and one of them is basically me, and Dear White People, you do whatever you can to put your thumbprint on it, because the way it works in television writing is there's a group of writers in a room. For Dear White People, it's 7 writers and myself and the script coordinator, and we basically brainstorm the story and we outline it together, and then they assign it to a writer. So you might not be invested in the outlining, but when they assign it to you, you better damn well be invested in it and try and find a way to put your voice in it as much as possible. So, like for me, I grew up in the church, and so a lot of that background ended up in the first scene where they're in Bible study and Joelle is admiring a man outside of the window. There's also, if you notice, there is a Chinese gay person speaking at the orgy in Dear White People. He's the guy with the double-sided dildo. I've been, you know, as the only Chinese or Asian person on the Dear White People writing staff, I'm pushing for representation in all areas at all times. And now that this episode was given to me, I found a way to finally sneak in an Asian character with a speaking role. And I was like, oh, well, make him dress up as Tom of Finland and give him some sassy line to give. I mean, I've never been to an orgy. My mom will be relieved to hear that as well. But so I basically called my friends who had been and got details about it. But yeah, you try, when you're given an outline that you didn't come up with, you find something to love about it, you find something to latch on, and you put yourself as much into it as you can, and then the showrunner, Justin Simeon, will take a look at the script and he'll do a voice pass. So, and you just hope that he doesn't erase too much of your voice and too many of your jokes. So to answer your question, I feel I love both of them, they're both my babies, but Falling for Angels feels more personal to me.
Of course. We've obviously reached an era where even sort of more mainstream shows are comfortable with queer characters. I mean, there's a lesbian couple on God Friended Me, you know. But
I did not know that. That's great.
Oh yeah. There has been the whole time. But I'm wondering if you're seeing that that openness extends to, well, I guess really in both cases, like non-white characters and or sexualized characters, because those both seem to be areas where, you know, kind of super mainstream representation of LGBT people often fall behind.
Interesting you should ask that question. So this summer I worked as a script coordinator on another big screen TV series adaptation called Love, Simon. And it is a Latinx sequel to the movie. And
Disney Plus, right?
For Disney Plus, exactly. And, you know, they're teenagers. There's obviously going to be sex. You know, it's the story of Victor Salazar coming out of the closet, and it's for Disney. Disney's still trying to figure out what it wants. So even though we have a lot of stuff in the movie, and the same writers in the movie are also running the Disney Plus show, I'll be perfectly blunt, and I guess this stays in the room, or maybe not, but Disney Plus has been pushing back on it. They watched the pilot, they wanted to de-gay it, they're worried about several storylines where the kids have sex, not just like gay sex, but also heterosexual sex. So it could be the Disney thing, but from personal experience, I've noticed that what they want is they want Victor to find a gay romantic relationship, like being attracted to this idealized rose-colored romantic vision of the relationship instead of
like holding hands.
Hormones. Yeah, holding hands instead of something a little more pubescent, a little more realistic. So I guess working on this, and Dear White People is also, Netflix is different. They give us all the liberties we want, right? And they also have Orange is the New Black, and now they have all these Ryan Murphy shows. So I feel like it depends on the network. So I'm going to say Netflix is very liberal and welcoming and pushing the envelope, whereas other big conglomerates like Disney, which now owns Fox, they're very, and because Disney Plus has the word Disney on it, they're very aware of their brand, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Maybe they'll kick it to Hulu.
Maybe they will. I don't know. That's right. They own Hulu as well. But it's funny because, gosh, no, I'm not going to gossip about the industry. But let's just say that we can talk afterwards about
We can open up to questions if folks have any. I know nobody wants to go first, but it would be nice. He came from Hollywood, people.
I have a question for you.
Oh, okay, shoot.
What was your favorite part about Falling for Angels, and what was your favorite part about the Do White People episode?
Let's see. Well, I also work for Outfest, so I know that stretch of Koreatown pretty well.
Oh, of course, yes.
So that was cool to see. I liked the progress of the character turns, often centered around food, but in general, they felt like real conversations. This is the sort of thing where you can get into that kind of one-act play, short film thing where it's it's representing things, and this actually felt like two dudes talking. So again, like when it gets to that kiss at the end, that actually comes from a place where like progress is being made, and we know what it means for him to open up to that idea. So I thought that was lovely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm a longtime fan of Justin's. I can't review his stuff because I knew him before he was a filmmaker.
Oh,
so now it's weird.
Right.
But I thought the whole you're spinning a lot of plates there, and I don't know, like I know with the writers' room, like you didn't necessarily write all the stuff, but like I think the scene with Laverne Cox is great.
Oh my God.
Her very casual condescension throughout.
Can I spill the tea on the Laverne Cox scene? So it's not about queer romance, but like when we cast, I guess it is queer because like when we cast Laverne Cox, we wanted to just cast her as a woman. We didn't want to reference the trans of it all. We're like, maybe she's just playing a cis professor. That would be great because like we want our trans brothers and sisters to start playing just any person they want to. So we didn't explicitly identify her as trans, and she is. Does anyone have a clue on what who her character is based off of? I'll give you a clue. So this very talented, established black filmmaker, her film is called Make Correct Decisions.
Oh.
Does that sound like an analog for
Okay, I got you.
Do the Right Thing, maybe? And we were also brainstorming other ideas for movies she would have made. One of my favorites is She Insists She Must Obtain It, which I like a lot. So anyway, that whole interaction between Laverne Cox's character and Sam White, she is based on Justin Simeon and Spike Lee. When Spike Lee invited Justin to come to NYU to speak at his class, and he was like very praiseworthy during the discussion in front of class, and then they went out to lunch afterwards, and the lunch was completely awkward. And it was just basically Spike Lee sizing him up and keeping his distance, and it was very awkward. And then like later on, a year later, the Hollywood Reporter, when Spike Lee had She's Gotta Have It picked up to a Netflix adaptation, they were like, oh, what do you think about other black film to TV Netflix adaptations like Justin Simeon? And he basically shaded Justin and was like, well, Justin needs to stop copying me and do his own stuff. And so all of that ended up on the screen. So that's what that scene is about.
While Justin, meanwhile, is playing the best version of Tyler Perry possible.
Yes, it is. That's true. Mr. Criggins is Medea, and Justin is Tyler Perry. And that story is that, so Justin had looked down on Tyler Perry because, it serves a certain audience, and quite frankly, a lot of people don't understand Tyler Perry movies, me among one of them, and So when Justin had arrived on the scene with Dear White People at Sundance, one of the first people to call him was Tyler Perry, basically welcoming him into like the Black Filmmakers Club, and they were like kicking it up. If anyone is wondering, Tyler Perry is definitely a closeted homosexual. So yeah, I know, shocker, right? But
I remember when he took Oprah on a tour of his house, and he's like, well, this is the closet that I had set aside for my future wife, but in the meantime, I've managed to fill it with shoes.
oh my God, he did not say that. Well, he might as well just pants out of the closet like that. He basically outed himself to America. Yeah, and so the idea is that he had always looked down on Tyler Perry, but because Tyler reached out to him and was so welcoming him into the fold, he's like, oh, maybe I should give him a shot. So the grand arc of season 3 is about meeting your heroes. And for Samantha White and for Justin Simien, he found a hero in a place where he didn't think he would find one. And another interesting tidbit is the person we wanted to play Tyler Perry's character, Tyler Scary, whatever, is actually Jerry Schuyler is actually Tyler Perry. We went out to him and we asked him to play himself, and he passed.
Well, take this sort of thing too far.
Exactly.
No, that's very cool though. Yeah, and I just the idea of the fact that Lionel's always been there, you know, that it's not like, you know, okay, I've got my black show in, and then later I'll sort of sneak in this gay guy. Like that, he's always been baked into the formula of who this ensemble is and what this show is about.
Right.
I've always really admired, and I mean, not just Justin for bringing it forth, but Netflix for, you know, and originally I guess Lionsgate with the movie, kind of taking that on and not being skittish about it because there's this long-standing idea that, like, you know, oh, black audiences won't watch a gay character and gay audiences don't want to watch a black, you know, it's like, yeah. So,
They've been fearless with it and nothing but supportive, and like all of our executives at Netflix, they've all been black, they've all been very supportive, and sometimes they'll weigh in on their own black experience and how it clashes with the shows, but of course, like, being black is not a monolithic experience, and like all points of view are valid. I really like the, I lost my train of thought, sorry.
Are there questions? Yes.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Stand up, please.
Hi. I also grew up in Virginia Beach.
Yes, where did you go to high school?
Ocean Lakes.
Yes, that's where my sister went to school. Did you go to the magnet program?
Yes.
Of course you did.
But I also relate fully with like your story and Kevin's in terms of the sense of like self-loathing you get from being in predominantly white environments. Like I was one of only
Yes.
3 African Americans in that magnet program.
Right.
And then I came to UVA, and I'm only like one of 3 like black kids in Baton. And so like it's like all the time. And then I when I came to UVA, I was like, oh, I can be myself, right? I can get on the grinder and like find somebody to go on a date with. And nobody wanted to talk to me. People actually blocked me for being black.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and so like it felt horrible. And I would just want to ask you, when was your moment when like you realized that you could love people who look like yourself? Because I feel like I still struggle with that today.
Right.
So much. And I still have moments where like I have this like there's moments where I'm on my highs and I'm like, yes, I'm beautiful, but then like I have my lows where like I feel like I'm drowning. Like I'm in this place where like I'm suffocating from this all-white environment that's consistently telling me that I'm not good enough, and I have to keep like pushing back to tell people that I'm beautiful, and I can't stop. And if I stop for a moment, it'll like kill me.
Yeah.
On the inside.
Thank you so much for your question. That's amazing that you're sharing all of that. Thank you. I mean, I think moving to, gosh, I don't want to say, well, for me it was moving to a big city. It was moving to Los Angeles. I moved to DC right after graduation. DC doesn't help that much either. They're a little more, DC's very liberal, but socially I feel like they're still very conservative. And so you need to get to like a metropolis like New York or Los Angeles, and so you'll see there are just so many hot people there of so many ethnicities. Like you would be stupid. You'll be stupid not realize, you'll be like, oh, of course I'm attracted to people who look like myself. And then a lot of it is time too. Time will change your mind. Like like my taste in guys changed over time, and you'll just, as you grow and as you become more aware of your own prejudices, your own tastes will start to change. I don't know, do you experience this, like as a Latinx person, do you experience a little bit of the self-loathing or like the interracial with interracial?
I'm not Latinx.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
No, my parents were both born in Spain, so I'm
Ooh.
European Hispanic, but not.
You're the colonizer, I see.
Yes, exactly. You're welcome. But yeah, so that's the ethnicity part has never been a thing. Just the growing up closeted in the 1970s, good times.
Did I answer your question? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, you are beautiful. Stay strong. That's crazy, but I totally get what that's got to be like. We have time for a couple more questions. Yes, sir.
It's interesting to me that you wrote both of these scenes because the first episode is everything I think is wrong with TV and why I would not want us to be represented by TV because it makes a cartoon out of us. And the second one was so personal and so real in the discussion that you had in it. And it can engage people, like this gentleman behind, in that second one, where you can't engage them in that first one when we are cartoons.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Dear White People is a funny show because it's primarily a comedy and it's written in, and it's Justin's voice. And, not everyone loves it. I love it, but it's a very stylized show. People don't talk like they do in real life on the show. Everyone's very quippy, very hyper-articulate. I can see why you didn't connect with it. It's very heightened, the sense of storytelling. But yeah, I appreciate your comments and feedback. Thank you.
It's stylized, but it's also stylized in a way of stereotyping, using those tropes to express our being. And it's really, it's not, it seems to me, I don't know why any minority would want television to take that over, because they do that. Right. They make them shallow and two-dimensional.
Well, I'll speak to this a little more. So, the scene where they're in the cafe talking about what happened at the ball, that was a very different scene. So the way I originally wrote it is they actually go to the ball. And I don't know if you watch Pose or if you've watched Paris is Burning, but it is all of that. And to do my research, I went to several balls in Los Angeles, which was really great because you meet these people and they come from such hard backgrounds, but they're so full of life, and the ball means everything to them, and there's so much humanity there. And I feel like, I could see, there's a lot lost when you have them just talking about what happened at the cafe than like actually being at the ball, experiencing the joy of everyone around you. And the simple answer to like what happened there was Netflix and production was like, we don't have the money to produce this ball. Just have them talk about it in one of our standing sets. So there was a plan to flesh that out and to, also, one weird thing about that scene too is how Quay Tan, who plays a trans character on our show, she gives that speech that sort of comes out of nowhere about socialism, and part of that is it needs to feed into like the arc of the theme of like of what Sam realizes that we're all one, and so there's like this socialism theme running out throughout. So that it feels a little random, and that's obviously not how people speechify in real life, but like we put that in to feed that storyline. So there's stories we need to service, and so that might have taken you out of it. And also, it's also based on a real life trans host who was getting her PhD from NYU, but she would give talks about philosophy on YouTube. And so our character was actually based on her. Yeah, so a lot of different influences. But that's television, you know.
One person's stereotype is another person's role model, you know. So I mean, these might not be characters that you're comfortable with, but I think other people might recognize them from their own life. They might be thrilled to be seeing them on
I
television.
didn't say I wasn't uncomfortable with the transsexual or the bald or all that stuff. I've seen it. It would be like if you had if you had shown Asians, you would say that the only thing that's interesting about them is that they're exotic.
Right.
And this is the exoticness
Right.
of them without ever going into any depth of it.
Right.
And that's the same thing. I mean, I find the character that was the guy with the glasses that was
Lion.
not as two-dimensionally flat as the rest of the.
Right. This is also the 7th episode of the 3rd season. It may well be that these characters have had other moments where they've had deeper conversations and allowed themselves to be more intimate, and since you haven't seen the show, you're just getting this flash of, I'm dressed as a hura now. You know?
It's a very odd show to watch as a one-off, you know, like, because you're like picking people up it's like watching a soap opera in the middle. It's like, what's going on? Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the audience? What are you working on now?
So I just finished directing an episode of Fresh Off the Boat. It's airing on ABC tomorrow night. So if you have nothing better to do with on your Friday night, tune in at 8:30 or just watch it on Hulu the day after. That was a really exciting thing for me. And then
Is it your first time?
it was my first episode
Congrats,
ever
that's
television. And then Monday tomorrow. No, I'm flying back to LA tomorrow, and then Saturday I'm leading an Asian American town hall about the entertainment industry. So different Asian American organizations in entertainment are gathering at the Writers Guild, and we're going to talk about ways to forward representation in the media. And then on Monday, I start shadowing on a new Ryan Murphy show for Netflix called Hollywood, which is about the golden age of Hollywood set in the 40s, and the director I'm shadowing is Janet Mock. So yeah, so I'm really excited about it because it's going to be a great life experience in addition to a great directing experience. Yeah, so just a shadowing assignment, like hanging out with Janet Mock for 2 weeks, which is going to be great, but hopefully there will be more directing gigs. Dear White People also got picked up for a 4th season, so we are determining whether I'm going to come back as a writer. For the first time in 3 seasons, the room is going to change. We had the same room for all 3 seasons, and now people aren't coming back, and so it depends on the needs of the rooms whether they bring me back, but hopefully they will. And if not, fuck them.
Well, that's all very exciting. Congrats on that. Thanks for coming back to Virginia. And
I love coming back here. I love coming back to this festival. And thank you for coming here.
Oh, no, my pleasure. It's my first time, but I'm having a blast. It's great. So yeah, thank you to the festival for having us here. This has been terrific. And your volunteers are all amazing, and everybody that puts this thing together, it's extraordinary. Thank you guys for coming out on a Thursday night to talk about queer TV. And yeah, thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Oh my god, what's that one?